I'm Coach Ivan, certified life coach, public speaker, and published author of the book titled Boot Camp for Personal Success. Your pain is your passion. Well, in my case, my pain is BPD, borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder is a serious mental illness that is characterized by intense mood swings and difficulty in relationships. People such as myself with BPD feel emotions with a great intensity, experience episodes of anger, anxiety, and depression. Some of the characteristics of a person with borderline personality disorder is a fear of abandonment and rejection. They have unstable relationships with family, friends, co-workers. They have a very low self-image. They're very impulsive. They'll take chances that most people won't take. They'll go on binge episodes, or binge eating, or binge spending, or reckless driving, etc. They do a lot of self-harm. Suicide within the BPD community is 1 in 10. So 1 in 10 people that has this mental illness commit suicide. 7 out of 10 attempt it at least once. That's 50. The suicide rate for BPD is 50 times greater than the general population. That's a startling number. 1 in 5 of every psychiatric inpatient is borderline personality disorder. 10% in the outpatient realm. We're characterized by extreme mood swings, feelings of emptiness. Who are we? Where do we fit in? Why are we here? We're very suspicious. We have trust issues. And you have to understand why or how BPD is caused. A lot of it is caused by neglect at a very young age, from ages 0 to 3. So it's not like the person actually did anything to have this condition. And some of it is genetics, but then some of it is environmental. So the genetical piece is the fact that through these traumatic events at a very young, underdeveloped age, our brain, there's certain parts of our brain that aren't fully functional. And as a result, the two parts is the amygdala and the hippocampus. Those are the part that regulate our memories and our reactions to responses. It's maddening. It's maddening to have, you're hypersensitive, you're over alert, you're always in flight or fight. The part of your brain that has logic and reasoning, you really don't have access to, because your brain is kind of short circuit, because it always processes everything in fight or flight. The part of your brain that handles that type of emotion, your basic primitive instinctive emotion of survival, is almost short circuited. So it's always operating on high alert, and it's always looking and perceiving everything either as a threat or a risk. There's no logic saying, okay, this is really not a threat. This is just something that is just happening within life. And so then we experience, everything is emotional based. So if you know anything about emotions, then it's easy to control other people's emotions. And if people don't have control over their emotions, then they're all over the place. Well, the same thing happens with us, but only 10 times worse. There's one character, it's been characterized that a person with BPD is similar to a 3rd degree burn patient on 90% of their body. In other words, we don't have emotional skin. We feel everything. The slightest word, the slightest tone in your voice, the look in your eyes, we perceive as a negative. It could be a rejection, and it's a reflection of us. Well, this person really don't like us. This person don't, think we're good enough. And then we don't think we're good enough. And then, we latch on to that particular thought. And then we start having this internal dialogue. And this internal dialogue is so in depth and so deep that if you were actually, a great example I'll use, a lot of times if you live in the city or something, you'll see that person walking down the street who's talking to themselves. The only difference between that person and a person with borderline personality disorder is you can't hear the conversation. But the person with borderline personality disorder is having the same conversation. It's just in their head. You just don't hear it, but we hear it. And it's maddening. That's why they call it, it's borderline between neurosis and psychosis. It's something neurological, and then borderline psychosis. There's 11 personality disorders. Borderline has characteristics of all the other 10. It's the only personality disorder that has characteristics of the other 10 personality disorders. So it really is a serious mental illness. But here's the good news. The good news is Part of it can be treated through medication that kind of help mood stabilizers, antipsychotic medicine, whatever else. You really have problems sleeping, so a lot of times you get help sleeping. But the biggest part of it is understanding that a lot of our responses is a conditioned response rooted in survival. So whatever took place in our younger years, in our youth, and in our developmental stages of our brain, we develop certain conditioned responses as a means of survival. It's not, I'm not pointing a finger at my parents or anything like that. That's not the case. But that's just something that we've learned how to do. And as a result of that, we grow older and we still have these childlike responses because the emotions that we felt at that age, we could not vocalize. We did not have a word assigned to that emotion. So when we recall certain events, we don't recall it with a word. We just recall events with emotions. So we act out with our emotions and not with logic, right? Because those parts of our brain are underdeveloped, arrested development. In relationships, it's very hard because we have, like I said, in one of the characteristics, we have trust issues because of abandonment issues that we experienced maybe when we were younger. It's not anything that we meant to do. A lot of times we aren't even aware of the fact that we have these issues. As you know better, you do better, right? That's the whole premise of kind of me sharing this video with you and telling you a little bit about my experiences. I've pushed everybody away. There's times where, I don't have anybody. I don't have friends. I don't have anybody because I push everybody away. I'm scared to have intimate relationships with people. I'm constantly thinking and suspicious that people are going to do something to me and try to hurt me. If they find out things about me, are they going to hurt me? But then I start thinking, well, maybe I'm not good enough to have friends because, hell, they all keep leaving. Well, hell, they keep leaving because I keep pushing them away. But that's the cycle of the condition of borderline personality disorder. It's a repetitive cycle of self-destructive behaviors. It's your brain is attacking you to try to protect you, or it's attacking the people you love in an effort to protect itself from hurts and pains. But what it's doing is creating the hurts and pains. Because it creates it because you're so stressed out and so worried and so focused and fixated on this idea that the people around you don't like you and that they're going to leave you, that your brain subconsciously creates that event so you stop worrying about it. And then once that happens, you don't worry about it. Now you're emotionally stripped. Your heart feels like it's been crucified, like your heart has been put on a stake and people are just ripping at your heart, just slashing and just gashing, gnawing, and it's just ripping your heart a piece. And the only thing you could do is just stand there and just take it and take it and take it. And then a lot of times, trigger warning, a lot of times what happens, people can't handle that. That pain is that intense. The intensity of that emotion is that strong. It's that intense. That you look and you say, man, I can't do this no more. This ain't worth it. I can't keep going through this. I can't go through this. And so they make a bigger decision. So part of me talking about this is to help people who have been through that you don't have to make that ultimate decision, but that there is help. Dialectical behavioral therapy. It helps rewire the brain. It slows. The more you know, the more you start becoming more in tune with yourself, then the more you start recognizing just how much of the BPD actually influences your day-to-day life. How much it really triggers your thoughts, and you really have to slow your thought down. Paul in the Bible says we capture every thought and we surrender it. Well, if you can't determine what your next thought is going to be, and if you have this condition, then a negative thought comes on, you latch onto it. But what I'm learning is when the thought comes, analyze it. Is this thought really a fact, or is this just a thought or emotion? What helps me a lot is looking at the facts. The facts help my logic mind kick into gear, and it helps me slow my BPD mind down. But there's BPD, it has some good qualities too, though, right? We're highly analytical. We're very in tune. We can pick up on subtle changes in people. Some of that's real, some of it that's perceived, but nonetheless, we're pretty good judge of people. We love passionately. When we let our guards down, we love passionately and we love long. And so, that's really what this video is about. I wanted to make this a short video, but there's just so much to talk about this condition that I really can't put it in 2 or 3 minutes. But the message I want to give is that, my passion now is from my pain, and my pain has been borderline personality disorder. And my passion and my purpose now is to raise the awareness of borderline personality disorder. So if I would love to speak at any event, I'd love to be on any podcast. You can interview me. I'm very transparent about the things that I go through, the struggles that I've had. Another big characteristics of borderline personality disorder is substance abuse of some form, alcohol, drugs, sex, the whole nine, porn. There's all kind of addiction that goes with this sanity, or insanity that goes on in our brains. So I want to be an advocate for this condition. I want to be able to help other people so they don't have to go through some of the things I've had to go through and struggle in some of the ways I've had to struggle. So, but I will say this as a disclaimer. I'm not a mental health provider. So if you find yourself in a state of suicidal behavior or adulation, seek professional help. What I do as a coach is, if you know anything about borderline, then one of the things that we have a hard time doing, because we lack a sense of self, that we have a hard time figuring out what our future plans are going to be and how to coordinate and plan for the future. What therapy and psychiatry does, therapy focuses on the things that's happened in the past. Me as a coach, I'm focused on right now and the future. So that's one of the benefits that I think I add in the continuum of care for people with borderline personality disorder and bipolar, etc. So with that being said, I appreciate your time. Be on the lookout. I'm going to be doing more videos about this condition and this illness. I'm just getting started. So I will be recognized as an authority in this particular arena sooner than later. Much love and respect. Peace.